So this is Baruch Fleshman, your Lyft manager. Have we heard now this year from Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan? We heard from Rabbi Minran. And now we're talking about the topic here is astrology according to Jewish law. In the last series, Rabbi Abraham Bar Chia spoke about Abraham Avinu, that he in fact was an astrologer and a great astrologer, and he explained the difference between Jewish astrology and how we understand it. If you were listening to the very opening shir in the Zohar tonight, then that Zohar also talked about the fact that there are certain sarim, that is, channels, like astrological channels. There's 70 of them. And all of those channels refer to all of the 70 nations, as the Torah understands the geography of the 70 nations, or where their influence is, or where they belong. So here we have Rabbi Yaakov Kronenberg. In a letter to his student, Rabbi Abraham Bar Chia explained his reasoning for suggesting that he should delay his wedding. He suggested that the wedding be delayed so that there would be more luck in the future of the wedding. His suggestion that it be done on an hour which was an odd hour, a good planetary fixed hour. Now that's a Talmud system. Now all this remains to be learned. And a good position of the planets in the horoscope when compared with their positions at the time of the student's birth. And managed to prove, and using all his sources from the Talmud, the Bible, and other rabbinical literature, that the Jews always considered astrology as a legitimate science. From everything we said up to now, we see that it is proper to study astrology and to hold it. However, since it could go up in the heart of man to take the knowledge of the Chaldeans, and that our rabbis warned us about doing this and consulting with them, we need to investigate the difference between the two. We must say that astrology gives us the insight as to what will be in the future in a general way, but it cannot form us in a detail of specifics of the body of truth. If astrology informs us that this man will own vineyards and at that specific location, so he only sees the power of the mazel and the testimony of the planets that testify in the sky. And listen to that language. Let me see the language again. So one sees the power of the mazel, that is the star or the planet that is affecting this person, is what he says, and the testimony of the planet. So the planet says that this is what I do, and this is what will happen as a result of my appearance. But we don't see its particulars down on earth, but we don't see that. We only see the categories and the general. This is a matter which is very clear and agreed on by all of us who practice this science. So we have a general idea. Let's see what else he says. So he says that Rabbi Abraham explains that you can't say that the Chaldeans learn astrology just like other people learn it. That even though they call themselves and are called by others astrologers, there's a difference. And they do something different from other astrologers. What is that? And because of that, it is forbidden to listen to them. Because if they were normal astrologers, there would be no reason for them to be forbidden, since astrology is a science of understanding time. Right? Because the earth is turning. The turning, you don't believe it. You don't believe it's turning 1,000. You are now sitting at a seat, and you're going 1,000 miles an hour, but you don't know it because everything else is going at that speed as well. But even you could ask the physicists, could really ask, is it really 1,000 miles an hour? What is it relative to? That's important. So which is what Rabbi Abraham said in the beginning. There are times to do this. There are times to do that. There are times to refrain from doing things. Just like doctors may say that kind of food is good for you, or the other kind is not good. And there's a time to eat food and a time not to eat. And each person eats different foods. So the same thing is true in astrology and the study of time. And it's a legitimate science. So what did the Chaldeans do wrong? This is what he wants to get to know. We must say that astrology gives us the insight to what will be in the future in a general way. but it cannot inform us in detail or specifics of the body of the matter and truth. So the astrology works only in a general way. It is the understanding of what we see in the heavens parts of the world of Asiya. The heavens, that is, we live in the world of Asiya. The heavens are the lowest world of action, and that's our heavens. And we look up in those heavens, and there you don't see anything in detail. You only see things in a general way. You can say that this person is going to get married this year, but it doesn't tell you who he's going to marry. So if someone comes to you and asks, am I going to get married this year? You married this person. Then that you can't tell them from looking at his horoscope, only without seeing his horoscope, her horoscope. You just can't do that. You can't be certain of the name of the girl he's going to marry because it is too much. Because astrology only sees things in a general way. This is what Abraham Barhia tries to explain. He says we must say that astrology gives us the insight to what will be in the future in a general way, but it cannot inform us in detail or specifics or the body in truth. The Chaldeans' words are not like this. Rather, they testify or predict on the specific thing and the body as it is, like it teaches. Not sure what that meant. To illustrate the point, he now quotes some famous astrology stories in the Talmud. It starts with a story of Yosef Makiv Shavi, who was a Jewish man who gave great honor to the Shabbat. All week he lived in a modest life, ate very little, didn't spend his money on any weekly purpose, except for things for the Shabbat, so he would have money to honor the Shabbat. They had 3 good meals of Shabbat and gave honor to it like you were supposed to honor the Jewish law. So he had the nickname besides his name. He was called Yosef, the man who honors the seventh day. Yosef Makir. Oh, that's his name. And in he's Joseph that honors the seventh day. And in his neighborhood, there was a very wealthy non-Jew, and one day a Chaldean came up to the wealthy man and told him his prediction, saying that all his possessions are going to get taken by the Jew Yosef, the man who honors the seventh day. Your possessions will be lost to you, and go to him, Yosef. So they'll go to Yosef. So Yosef won't wind up anything. When the non-Jew heard this, he sold all his possessions, took all his money, and brought with it a precious stone. He put it in his hat, with which he went everywhere to make sure he didn't lose the precious stone. One day, as the wind was blowing, his hat blew off his head and went into a river. He was very unhappy, but he consoled himself by thinking at least the Chaldean was wrong on one point, because Yosef did not get the precious stone. Later, the stone was swallowed by a big fish, and then that fish got caught and sold in the marketplace of Friday. There was such a magnificent fish, someone said. Let us offer this fish to Yosef Makashavi, who was likely to buy this expensive fish from his honor the Sabbath. From his honoring of the Sabbath, I guess. They didn't have refrigerators back in those days, and they wanted to sell the fish as soon as possible so it wouldn't get ruined. Of course, Yosef bought the fish for the Sabbath, and the precious stone was found. He and his family opened up the fish, and Yosef became a very wealthy man. So you see that the Chaldean was right, but you can only see, as Rabbi Abraham learns from the story, the Chaldeans predict specific things in detail. Not only that, the person was going to lose all his wealth, but he would exactly who exactly would inherit it. That is a rule we have in astrology, that you can't predict the particulars. You can only predict things in general, but not in details. And so this is one story which proves that Chaldeans predict specifics. So I think we'll stop here. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is Tikkun Elevator Kola. We're learning astrology.